Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I am so beyond excited to welcome back Allison Leah to the show. Hey girl.
Hello! I'm happy to be back.
I'm so excited you're back. I loved our first chat. A lot of the listeners did as well, so it's fabulous to have you back again. How have things been since we chatted last?
Things have been really good, really busy. I'm really gearing up to release this EP that we talked so in depth about a couple months ago. So everything is looking good for the release, and I'm just excited to finally get back out there and play some shows this summer and booking all of that. And it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's so exciting, and I'm still so happy we were able to meet in Nashville. That was the best.
That was so much fun. Oh my goodness, how was your writer's retreat?
It was so fun. It was amazing. It was just so great to like meet Andrea in person and some of the other writers I met with, and going to the CMA Awards too was super fun. So it was an amazing first trip to Nashville. Let's be real.
That's awesome, and may there be many, many more trips just like it and better.
Yes,
So, no, it was
absolutely.
great meeting you.
Oh, you too, girl. So I'm so excited you're joining me again because today we're chatting all about recording vocals, and I know we have lots to talk about, so let's get right into it. And let's start off with a quote by Grimes.
Yes. Should I read it?
Yes, you should.
Okay. It says, "I feel like vocals are to music what portraits are to painting. They're the humanity. Landscapes are good and fine, but at the end of the day, everyone loves the Mona Lisa."
This is so beautifully poetic. What does it mean to you?
Oh, to me, this I love what specifically what it says about the humanity, because I think um there's something so magical about creating a bed of instruments, but then once you have the voice behind it, it shows the personal side of every song. And I think too, like, lyrics are my favorite part of a song. It just kind of transcends I mean, it sounds like a little hippie to say, but it transcends like the natural world, and it just puts you in this totally different world. And so to me, it's saying that while art is wonderful and art is art, it's really the human touch of vocals that make a song what it is.
For sure, yeah, I completely agree. And I think, like, art in general, like, I think what really sets aside good art and great art is the emotion and the passion. And,
Hmm.
like you said, with the instruments, like, you could have the best drums and the best guitar and the best synths, but, like, you don't have a real, true, honest, emotional song without those vocals to kind of take center stage. And I like how you brought up the lyrics as well, because that's truly, like, at the heart of the song and what you're singing. And so that's like what the vocals are all about, and the delivery and how you choose to sing the lyrics and color those lyrics really creates the tone that you want the song to have. And I think that's really where it gets important of, like, rehearsing your vocals and really looking at the song and determining what is the tone, what do I want to express, and actually portraying that through your voice while you're recording. And that's something I had to work on, because when I started, I really just like sang the song. Like, it was really notey in a way. And I like would listen back and it wasn't very emotional. And then I was like, what's going on? And it's because I wasn't really processing the lyric and what I was saying to give that strong delivery.
Oh, wow. It's so true, and it's kind of funny. I hear a lot of stories. I think this happened to Adele and a few other artists where they almost like laid down like a scratch vocal when they had just written the song, or just like a demo vocal, for lack of better word. And then they could never beat it. So like, I think the vocal behind like "Don't Know Why" by Nora Jones is just like the original scratch vocal. And same with an Adele song. I forget which one, but it is kind of wild how like getting the emotion behind a vocal is what makes the vocal so great.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really interesting because I feel like, too, when you really rehearse vocals over and over and over again, you can somehow like get into a pattern and lose the emotion in a way, because after you do something so long, it kind of fades. You know what I mean? And so that's
Yeah.
really interesting to hear that, like, some of the first demo vocals are the ones that actually made the song, because that's when the song was written, that's when the emotion was still raw. And so that makes
Mhm.
total sense.
Yeah, it's kinda like when you say a word over and over and over again and then it loses its meaning, you know?
Right,
It
exactly.
almost feels exactly like that, where
Yeah, exactly.
if you just let the hear the song and listen to what the song's saying, then it's usually one of the first few takes that becomes the real lead vocal.
Right, for sure. So, speaking of lead vocals, what are some things you keep in mind when you're recording those, and how do you prep for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on every song. I think for me, I like to first of all get rid of like all distractions. So if I am going into the studio knowing like it's gonna be lead vocal day, I actually just did the lead vocal for my song I Gave You My Number a few days ago. So I have this like fresh in my head. Um, but I like to, like, turn my phone completely off and put it in a different room for, like, just as long as I can before, like, once I'm in the studio until I'm singing. I like to do vocal warm-ups and, like, drink tea with honey and all of that good vocal stuff, but I think more than that, it's like we were just talking about, like, getting more into the headspace. So I think part of it for me is really kind of reading the lyrics. I usually bring, even though I tend to know the lyrics by heart by the time that I get to a recording session, I usually write down the lyrics by hand so that it really kind of gets in my head and I know what I'm singing about.
I love that. That's a great piece of advice. I honestly think sometimes, like, especially in the recording setting, there can be so much going on that by the
Mhm.
time you get into the booth to, like, record the vocals, you can be, like, distracted by other things. And so I like the idea of, like, getting rid of the distractions, really taking time to put yourself back in the headspace you were in when you wrote the song.
Mhm.
And also, like, if the song is about a specific person, like, when you're singing it, like, visualize that person in your mind, and, like, actually pretend like you're singing to that person.
Mhm.
And I think, like, in that regard, it feels a lot like acting, like
Yeah,
all these songs, like some of the songs in my EP I'm working on, the EP's called It Is What It Is. It's super sassy, but like some are
I
sassier.
love it.
Some are sassier, some are more heartfelt, the ones super like self-empowering, and so like they're different tones. And so like you can't go into recording every song's vocals the same way, so really putting yourself in the position of like the character of the song. Like, even though all the songs I write about, like, I'm the character in the song, but it's kind of like finding myself back into their shoes, or my shoes at that time, in order to deliver that song that way.
100%. I feel like it's actually funny. I started doing this probably like the shutting my phone off that is probably 5 years ago because I remember I was actually in the studio recording a breakup song called Where Do Hearts Go. And I at that point of recording it was in a happy relationship and I was like texting my boyfriend before I sang the song and it was just not working because I was just like happy singing this sad breakup song and the producer at the time was like, "You need to shut your phone off and you need to like embody." And it's so funny because I was like, it's this little silly advice that ended up just totally becoming like a habit of mine where I was just like, okay, like, no, it is acting. Like, you have to get back in the character that you were when you wrote this song.
For sure, yeah. And I think, like, after recording lead vocals, how do you do those? Do you do it in like full passage through the whole song? Do you do section singing? What's kind of your process with doing those?
Honestly, and it's changes every single time, but most recently I've been doing full passes of the song, but then getting a few good full passes of the song and then going through and kind of hitting problem spots or not even problem spots, just I'll almost do what I call like a crazy take and then a laid back take where like once at the end, like once I've recorded all the passes that I want to do of the song and I know I pretty much have everything that I need. For context for people listening, if when you are recording lead vocals, like all the lead vocals that you hear on the radio are essentially chopped up parts of different vocal takes that they then put together to create one lead vocal. For context, otherwise people will be like, "What are you talking about?"
We love
But
to comp. It's fun.
yeah, comping is great, but no. But I lost my train of thought. I'm coming back to it. I will. basically end up so going through and doing like a really, really, really over emotive take at the end where I'm just like, you know what? I don't care about like the syncopation. I don't care about the pitch. Like, this is just every emotion that I have. And then I'll do a different one where it's like, okay, you don't care about emotion. You are just focusing on hitting the notes and getting in the pocket. And then those usually help fill out those spots where I'm like, there needs to be like more emotion on that line. And then this, I'm like, oh, this one was pitchy, you know?
Right. No, that's really interesting, and that's really cool how you said you started to do full passes lately.
What
When
about
I,
you?
yeah, I started doing like sections, like for everything, and
Ooh.
just recently, I did a full pass approach for my song "I Hope You Know You're Lucky," which is one of the EP songs, and that's the first time I did it, and I feel like it changed everything because that song is like it's like country, it's slower, it's very emotional, and I think with a song like that, it's like if you do it in sections, like you kind of lose the build up because as you're singing through the song, especially if it's an emotional song, once you
Mhm.
get to like the bridge or like the last chorus, like that's where you should really be like reaching the climax of the song and really pouring out the emotion. And if you're singing that in sections, you're not really getting a natural build up. And so like I
Mm.
decided to do I Hope You Know You're Lucky the full way through, and it was like one of the most enlightening vocal experiences I've had because I've never gone to do something like that before. And I think
Wow.
like what it really comes down to for me is like some of the songs I think you can do section singing, especially if it's like more up tempo, like more, cohesive the whole way through, especially like just using the same chorus and, putting it for all the choruses for some, and then just changing up the backing vocals and harmonies to make them unique. But I think like depending on the song, it all depends on the song, but like more emotional songs that you really need an emotional build up, I think to do that really naturally, the full passes work really well.
Yeah, what led you to want to do a full pass for that song? Was it you? Was it the producer?
I actually did an episode with Emmy Law.
I
Yeah, and
have to
hers came out
listen.
back in January. Yeah, it was amazing. And she was talking about how she does that. And I was like, oh, no way. I never even thought of this before. And so at my January session, like soon after we talked, I did that and it
That's
changed my life with
awesome.
that song. So yeah, no, I'm learning things all the time on this
That's so
show.
cool. I have to listen to the episode.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Awesome.
Yeah, so now let's talk about your fave backing vocals. So
Oh my goodness.
I'm just gonna hand it over to you. So just go on.
Me going off about backing vocals. Okay, see you in a couple hours. No, I really love background vocals. I mean, I think it stems from like when I was a kid and I would just be layering harmonies all over the like whatever I could. Like if I were 7 years old, I would be on GarageBand like layering vocals. Like it was literally pretty insane when I think about it. But no, I always I don't know. I will spare you the interest on how I got so excited for background vocals because I really just think a lot of people are passionate about them and they really add to the song. But kind of what I wanted to talk about was the way that like I feel like they started shaping my own sound because I think like yeah, like a lot of people have taken part in choirs and a cappella and have done that kind of work throughout their lives, but I think it's really interesting to start to see background vocals act as different instruments in pop music because kind of like what we were talking about before, like you can have an insane drum solo, it can be the best drum solo ever, but it still doesn't give you the emotion that a voice can, at least in my own opinion. And so the wild thing is that if you have a background vocal and then you filter it to sound like a synth, all of a sudden this quote unquote instrument does have that emotion because it's acting like something else. And so that's kind of why I became so like in love with it. Um, but I started my just like when I started recording music and I recorded my first EP Fly Home, I did background vocals the way that probably a lot of other artists do them, which is last. Like we had the entire song recorded and ready to go, and then I had a background vocal day where I went to the studio and I recorded some, extra harmonies and doubles and layers over the song. And so that's kind of how it began for me, but then actually later on in my current EP is when I started, like, recording them on earlier in the song, and I feel like now, like, I'm trying to think of an example, but, like, in my song "What I'm Missing," there's a background vocal line in the chorus of "Oz" that I actually wrote before I even wrote the chorus, and so it helped shape the melody of the chorus because now it works almost like a counterpart with the lead, and then it was distorted to sound like a synth afterwards. Um, Plus, I just feel like they add texture. Like, there are, like, 50 background vocals in What I'm Missing, but they're EQ'd, filtered, compressed differently, so it sounds like one huge textured vocal rather than having one vocal with a bunch of different background vocal parts.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I actually like, I feel like recording background vocals is the most fun part because that's where you can get really creative. Like, once you do the leads, you have that. But once you start getting into like, how can I add more vocal layers to the song, it gets really fun. And that's something that like, I definitely plan a lot in advance with like harmonies I want and I rehearse my harmonies. But I like to save like the doubling and ad libs and like other creative things for like studio days because my producer always has the coolest ideas. And so I think that's like an awesome way to like bring in other people's opinions, like listen to the song, think like, oh, where can we add things, like what can we add here. And like I did something really unique for my song, going back to Hoping That You're Lucky. He was like, my producer was like, well, why don't you, because I would tend to like sing ad libs of lyrics that I was currently singing in the lead at the time. And
Mm.
he was like, well, let's just look through. Oh, we did this for Perfectly Imperfect on Dear
Oh,
Diary too.
cool.
Yeah, he was like,
Yeah.
let's just look through the lyrics and pick out cool words that we like, and then just like freestyle those random words in the last chorus. And like, I've never done that before, Perfectly Imperfect, and then we did it for I Hope You Know You're Lucky. And like not all of them landed well, but like we got some really cool ones that like it just fit. And like that's something
Yeah.
I didn't even think of, like pulling lyrics from a verse or a pre or something to bring it back. It's so
It's so
fun.
funny that you mentioned "Perfectly Imperfect" because it's one of my favorite songs of yours,
Oh,
and I'm
thank
like, it's so
you.
funny that it's just like, yeah, you're like, "This is the one where I went crazy with background vocals." I'm like, "Yes." No, 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 but regardless, it's really cool to hear you talk about that. I feel like it's such an interesting way, like, going through and picking out words is, and then you almost highlight these words again, and you make the audience and the listener hear this word again, and then they think like, oh, where have I heard that before? And it kind of influences each other. And you're right, it's such a creative process, and I feel like songwriting in itself is very creative, but there's still a lot of things that you need to stick to, and it's all feels very permanent, where I feel like with background vocals it is in the background, so you can almost be as crazy as you want.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I also did a really cool thing with Obvious where like in the post chorus I was like, obvious, I couldn't be more obvious. It was a kind of a descending thing, but it was set really far back. And so like you can't really hear it a whole lot, but because it's like because of the track being more like poppy, not necessarily full synthy, but like there's a lot of stuff going on. And to have that set farther back, like you can hear it and what it's doing. But it was like a really cool thing. And I think like finding the spaces too, like if there's just like an instrumental break or something, like that's a cool place to do, and that's where we got that idea. So I think
Yeah.
like backing vocals need their time to shine, and you need to find the right places for them. Like sometimes when I'm doing freestyle stuff, like I notice that, oh, I'm getting in the way of the leads, like that can happen. But like you really need to find the spaces of like where does it make sense logically, and then where does it like not get in the way of the lead and what the main vocal line is trying to say. And so there's a
Yeah.
lot that goes into it. Like I don't think people really realize how much it goes into it.
Oh, 100%. I feel like especially when there's so many different reasons for adding background vocals, like we were talking about, like there's the harmonies, which is like, okay, like in a chorus, or I mean, depending on the song, obviously, but you kind of want to have harmonies in the chorus because it kind of builds up the chorus, right? And but then there are also doubles. So where do you put like a double? And I think this goes for like the listeners of this podcast too. Like, there are so many, every song that you probably hear on pop radio has like a doubled lead, so there are actually two voices singing, but they were just put together so tightly that you only hear one. And so that's really fun too, because that's a whole different kind of singing. Like that you're trying to match versus be creative. Whereas like when you're ad libbing, you're trying to stand out.
For sure.
So it's really interesting to me, but it is kind of wild. I feel like I have if I am able to, I'd love to share like my story behind my song 24 Years Down and like the background vocals behind it.
Go for
Um
it.
yeah, I had like so much fun with this one. And I feel like specifically in this song, I was using background vocals to build the song. Kind of like we were talking about a little bit earlier. But my song 24 Years Down, that's my most recent single at this point. Has vocal lines that echo the statements and kind of subconsciously influence the way the song carries. So I will explain. There's a background vocal line that I'm like gonna go off. But there's a background vocal line in the background of the second and third chorus that goes, I don't want to like sing it, but I'm like, it's like, time, oh my, it's all flown by. Time, oh my, hold on in time. And it's kind of on that open syllable, so it doesn't really poke out as much and can kind of like hide in the background, but it carries the theme of like sadness and time passing. But then in the last chorus, I changed the lyrics. So it's the same melody in the same place, but it says, time all mine. I have more time. Time all mine, and I'll be fine. So it almost is this subconscious thing that like changes the mood because there's a shift after the bridge that carries into the fourth chorus of the song. So that's something that's like really special to me about the song.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. That's so cool. That's like right down the street from like flipping the last chorus lyrics. Like I do that sometimes and like doing it with backing vocals is so cool. Oh my gosh.
I think like totally. I have a song called Colorado and I'm sure you have like we yeah, songwriters of course like have a million songs with the intention of like flipping the last chorus, but for me I was like I feel like the meaning of the chorus has changed but the lyrics didn't. So I wanted to really like push it along that like we're optimistic now. I literally did like 3 different melody lines on the last like literally I went so hard with this background vocal part. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, one more anecdote about this, but there's a line, kind of like you were talking about with ad libs on verse two, or what am I saying? Ad libs on your music. There's I did an ad lib from like a line in the verse two of 24 Years Down. So it says like all the stars shine. And so this is like a specific thing into the song, but it's echoed in the last chorus. So the timing of it works that I'm saying shine and then the previous one that I shared mine at the same time. So the syllables match up and then they come together at specific moments. And so then the third one is I created another ad libbing line that goes over the chorus that says, I've changed my mind. I'll take my time. And it goes back to the theme of time all mine and I'll be fine. It's really difficult to explain,
I
but I
know it's
feel like
so good.
if you listen to the song, you'll be like, "Oh, that's what she's talking about." Because it kind of goes like, "I've changed my mind. I'll take my time, all mine, and I'll be fine." So like it's working together to create this one moment and like this one feeling of empowerment, but it's something that was like really exciting for me to really hone in on.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Like, we all get so hype about this. Like, if you're a songwriter, like, you get so into, like, these little details in the background vocals and, like, everything creative we can do. Because, like, I think, once you get the bones of the song, like, the lyrics, the melody, the chords, and everything, the background vocals is a big part where you can really think of ways to take the song to the next level and really make it shine. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's lots of ways to do it as we talked about. But in terms of like all the different ways, like the harmonies or the doubling, the ad libs, what's your favorite type to do and what's your least favorite?
Oh boy. That's like picking a favorite child. No, I'm kidding. The people listening to this are gonna be like, "This girl is nuts." But I'm just a girl that is passionate about vocals. No, I'm kidding. But I would say the first instinct was that harmonies are my favorite. I just think chords are really cool, and it's kind of the same, like, I don't know, I look up to somebody like Lorde, who, like, really, really, really takes her time crafting harmonies on certain words that then bring out those words. So, I feel like that's something that I love about harmonies. And then least favorite, I'll have to say doubling, just because it can get tedious, because you really do have to really match the lead vocal take. And I feel like, especially, what kind of happens then is you comp the vocal together. So you have this one vocal of like the highlights of every single other vocal take that you've done. And then you have to match it perfectly. So it can be difficult. And it's a challenge. I like it, but it's still a challenge.
You're my twin, because I was gonna say the exact same thing.
Oh,
But
I was just about to ask, I was like, what is yours?
yeah, I love the harmonies. I think it's because like I have I've done a lot of things with choir. Like ever since I was in middle school through college, like I was in choir. And so just the harmonies and especially a cappella stuff, I was in an a cappella group in high school.
Oh, awesome.
So like I love the chords too, and like harmonizing with myself is so cool. Like even when I'm trying to just like figure out the harmonies, like I'll just record myself singing the main line on my phone and then just like harmonize to myself, and it's just really fun.
Oh, that's
Um
so fun. That's also a really good way to practice, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely do that. So harmonies are my favorite. But the doubling's my least favorite too, just for the reason of like what you said. It's so hard to match it. And I like when I'm listening to mixes my producer sends, literally almost every single song, there's like at least one doubling part that bothers me that I'm like, Bob, can you fix this? Like it like jumps out at me so much. And like when I'm doing it, I'm always hyper aware of like actually lining it up perfectly. Lining up perfectly is so hard. And like I'm always like, is this good enough? Is it good enough? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. Like if it's a little off, I can tune it to match. And I'm like, but is it fine? And then he always makes me double it and then like double the double. So I'm technically doing three and they're like pans. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, that's my least favorite part, and he loves it. Like once we get to like the doubling part, which we do before harmonies and ad libs, that's the first ones that we do. He
Mhm.
loves it, so he's like, all right, I'm gonna listen to the verse and see which words you want to double. And I'm just standing there in the booth like, I hope there's not many because I don't want to double it.
Well, I think it's good to have somebody that's, like, really into it and able to hype you up, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. And like it's fun like after they're there and like I listen back, but like doing it, it's like really hard because I'm like very aware of like my voice and my songs and stuff. So I'm like, if this isn't actually lined up perfectly, it's gonna drive me nuts. And also like I don't mind harmonizing with myself, but it's really weird for me to like sing the exact same thing that I just sang and like hearing myself. That's always been weird for me.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's just because like I hear myself doing it once. So like doing the harmonies is different cuz I'm singing different pitches, but like it's almost like I'm
Ah,
hearing myself duplicated singing the same thing, and it's kind of distracting for me at times. I don't know.
okay. I
Yeah.
think, what's so wild too about doubling whether it's doubling a harmony or doubling the lead vocal is that you have all this carefree energy when you're recording the vocal, like we were saying before, of like you shut off your phone and you put on, like, you get in the mood to sing it and you get back in that headspace and you feel all the emotions deeply and you sing it and you kind of give it your all and it's really vulnerable, but then all of a sudden you have to kind of throw that away and just match everything,
Yeah.
which is a little bit, you're kind of like, wait a second. You know what I mean? So it definitely has it's like a different skill, and I feel like a lot of people listening that aren't singers and aren't musicians, it's so interesting to even talk about how many different kind of skill sets you need to even like track a vocal on a
Yeah,
song.
for sure.
It's
Yeah,
kind
and
of
like,
wild.
yeah, one more thing about the doubles that I've started to do, like, there's certain words that don't bother me, but words that end in S or T drive me crazy and really stress me out because I don't want it to be like or you know what I mean?
That's
And so,
true.
like, I've started to like not sing the last syllable and just end on the vowel.
How do you like that better than doing it the other way?
Yeah, because if I don't end the S or T, like I guess like he can like move it and he has, but like there are some songs, like even very popular songs that I listen to, and like if it's not perfectly lined up and there's a little I'm like, oh my god, like I just like am crazy about that. So I've started to like, depending on the words and depending on like, because like the other thing too is like if you're singing like words rapidly, it doesn't really matter, but it comes down to like when they're longer notes, because it's like I know I ended on B3, but like if there's like a very small half a millisecond or whatever after B3,
Yeah.
it's like trying to
Yeah.
line it up completely and having like a consonant at the end of the word. I don't
Oh, you're
know.
so right, because when it really closes the syllable
Yeah.
versus if it's like in the background obviously and it just kind of fades out, if it's like an ah and then they're not perfectly aligned, then it
Yeah.
almost you don't notice it as much. That's
Right.
actually I'm going to now you've cursed me. Now I'm going to start hearing that in every single
Right.
song.
Yeah. No, but it's really fun. I love doing the backing vocals. And like you said, that's the part where you really have to not worry too much about the emotion, because the lead will take care of that. Like this is in the background. So it's like really like, it's mathematical in a way. Like really thinking about like the beats and like singing exactly with it. The hardest backing vocal or doubling experience I had, again with Perfectly Imperfect, the whole bridge is like there's a whole harmony that's like a third above the main line, and it was hard enough to like do the harmony perfectly with the lead line. And then
Mm.
after I did that, my producer was like, now let's double the harmony. I was like, are you kidding me? Like are you kidding me right now? But like that's like one of my favorite parts of the album, like the bridge of Perfectly Imperfect. So it worked out. It's just like super
Yeah.
stressful.
Wow. Wow. That's wild. I mean, I think that that's also interesting that you mentioned the doubling it in the bridge, because I feel like that is a really good place to start building it and or breaking it down completely. I feel like there's never an in between of like, yeah, I just did a one liner and the it's like always like, yeah, I broke it down entirely. The whole song, broke down,
Right.
or like I added a harmony on top of it, and it's pretty funny. But I feel like I don't know, I feel like I also like to use background vocals to like lyrically parallel songs, which might just be a personal thing. Um but I unless you've done it and you want to tell me about it, because that's also something I've like started looking at like in other artists' music to see if they've done, which is like something I just love about like singing almost like a lyric from a different song of yours in the background of your song.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's something I was actually thinking about, which is really interesting why you brought this up, because like I'm big with like dropping the title. Like I didn't do this with Dear Diary, but I'm definitely trying to do it with It Is What It Is.
Mhm.
Two songs, it's a 5-track EP, but two songs actually say It Is What It Is in the song, like in
Oh,
the lead.
cool.
So that was cool. Like I actually got the title from You Get What You Give, which is the lead single coming out in May. And so like once I decided the EP title from that, I was like, oh, I want to like find a way to put It Is What It Is in another song, and I ended up making that work, which is really cool. But like I never thought of like pulling lyrics from other songs on the project as background vocals, and because I'm going back to the studio at the end of April, I'm definitely going to start thinking about that, because I think that'd be a really cool way to like tie all the songs together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I feel like there's certain words that I emphasize on my upcoming EP because like I have two themes, one's of like starlight and one's of heart. So like there's a line in my song, I Give You My Number, that says, do you like the starlight, about like the beginning of a relationship? And this basically the reason that I asked that question is answered in my song 24 Years Down, because 24 Years Down talks about watching the stars with someone at 22 years old. So it's saying like,
Perfect.
I have a new relationship now. Like, are you gonna like the stars the way you did for them?
Oh my
Um,
god,
and
yes.
then my song Constellations is about like looking to the stars and having them remind you of somebody. So it's kind of this like triangle that I did on purpose. And I feel like if you just listen to one of the songs, you're kind of like, what does that line mean? Like, do you like the starlight? But it's like, no, it's because that was something that was important to me in a previous relationship.
Yeah, for sure. That's so crafty. I feel like we all need to do that more, because that really takes it to the next level. Like, you're not just looking at lyrics within the song to find cool lines to bring for background vocals. We're actually looking to the other songs on the project, thinking, like, okay, what can I pull in to kind of make it cohesive? That's so
Hmm.
cool. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
excited about it. I can't wait to get all these songs out.
I know, same. Well, I absolutely love chatting with you about backing vocals. Before we go, is there anything you like to end on with vocals in general, or background vocals, or anything?
I mean, I feel like we've covered so much, but I definitely just I mean, emphasizing that vocals are, so unique. No two people have the exact same vocals. So if you're somebody that's like looking to, and this isn't directed toward you, Demi, but just anyone who might be listening, but like if you're looking to find a unique vocal sound and style, like the best advice is to just do it, to just throw all caution to the wind, shut your phone off, go in a dark place and just sing, and see what kind of works, especially getting the emphasis and the energy of the song across. So this has been so much fun. I could we could talk for another 10 hours and perhaps we will, but this has been wonderful. I'm really excited for your album. My album, The Weight of My Heart, is what the EP is called. It'll be coming out at the end of the spring. So I should have a date out soon, and all of that will be on my Insta and my TikTok and all of that. So yeah.
Awesome. It was lovely having you on. I'm so excited to hear it. Can you just give your handles to everybody listening who might not have them?
Yes, my name's Allison Leah. So it's ALLISONLEAH music at on any social media you might have, or AllisonLeahMusic.com, and I'm on Spotify and Apple Music and all those good places.
Awesome, Allison. Thank you so much for joining me again for another fabulous conversation. It's been lots of fun having you back to chat all about vocals. And listeners, thank you so much for listening. Of course, until next time, stay
Stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.